The world's most extreme weather events all captured on film. Today we're bringing you the top 8 most extreme weather events ever caught on camera. Number 8. Airport rainfall. It can be a miserable experience being on a plane during a torrential rainstorm. But you'd normally expect it to be safe from whether if you're either in an airport terminal before boarding your flight or have managed to disembark just in time. Things didn't go exactly as expected at Luton Airport in the UK in 2019, when the storm outside became so powerful that it began to leak through the structure and rain onto those who were sheltering inside. The storm had caused havoc with flight schedules, with the most being cancelled until the next day, and this meant that there were more people in the terminal than there normally would have been. They found themselves scrambling to find a safe spot, but with puddles forming around them and parts of the ceiling collapsing, many found that there was nowhere to go and simply had to endure it. Number 7. Merchant ship and storm. Currently, around 90% of all goods that are transported around the world are carried by ship. But there are more than 53,000 container ships that are in operation with tight schedules to adhere to. They can't let tricky weather conditions slow them down, and they often have to navigate the worst that Mother Nature can show them. The Bay of Biscay, which sits between France and Spain, is an oceanic inlet that ships often sail through to stay clear of the open ocean, but it's notorious for its severe weather, which at times can resemble a hurricane in 2009. A 12,000-ton merchant ship found itself bearing the brunt of one of these formations. And while you'd normally expect a vessel of this size to seamlessly power through the waves, there was very little it could do against the huge swells that formed in the gale-force 10 storm, and it was forced to take them head-on. Number 6. Winds on Mount Elbrus. Mountain climbing is a popular pursuit for those looking for a physical and mental challenge, and there's a wide variety of peaks to climb around the world for people of all abilities. Of course, the most famous is the ascent of Mount Everest, where climbers have to contend with unpredictable weather, hidden currents, and extremely thin air. But in recent years, it's been made much easier thanks to the assistance of local guides and new technologies. Those looking for a real challenge are now looking elsewhere, and one of the most challenging is the 18,510-foot tall Mount Elbrus in Russia. It's a dormant volcano. That's the highest mountain in Europe and was first successfully climbed in 1929. Well, there are a couple of climbing routes that are regarded as easy and safe, especially as there's a cable car and stair lift that can take you part of the way. Experienced mountaineers may choose to take one of the more complicated ascents, and it's along these roads that they can encounter extreme winds. They're blowing across the mountains with just a few minutes warning, with mist and snow caught up in the wind. The only option is to brace yourself and stay in a position until it passes, which could be a matter of minutes or several hours. Number 5. Passenger ferry in rough seas. Due to its position at the bottom of the world, New Zealand experiences some of the hardest weather conditions of any country, especially in the surrounding oceans. This causes particular problems because the economy relies so much on ships to transport cargo and people, and it's not uncommon for these vessels to get caught in extreme storms. In 2014, the inner islander ferry, De Vareta, had left the city of Wellington in late September, soon found itself caught in the winds that were blowing up to speeds of 65 miles per hour, which caused waves of much as 20 feet high. The captain forged on, knowing it was the only way it would have ever reached his destination. You can only imagine what this would have been like for all the passengers on board. Number 4. Insane cloud formation. Clouds form when enough precipitation in the air can condense into droplets of water because of the temperature differentials, and it will usually swirl and meander in line with the prevailing air currents. But this can often happen at such slow speeds that their true majesty can only be seen in time-lapse videos. This footage was recorded as the storm began to form above the hotel on a beach, and you can see the cyclical motion that it takes, similar to how a hurricane behaves. It almost looks unreal, and at first when it was shared, there were those who were convinced that it was a computer effect. But formations like this are actually more common than people realize. They're just rarely caught on camera, like this. Number 3. The Pedua. The Pedua, also known as True Colors, is a 9-to-15-ton oil tanker that first set sail in 1993. It's usually responsible for transporting crude oil from the Gulf around the world, and as such has faced some of the most challenging sea conditions of all. While it's still very much in operation, things could have been very different after an incident in 2011, where it almost capsized due to the storm that developed over it in the Pacific Ocean. Footage taken from the bridge shows huge waves battering it from both sides, and at the same time it tilted by more than 40 degrees. It's not an experience many people would enjoy, and the images from inside the ship after the storm had passed shows just how vicious the conditions that the crew were subjected to actually were. Number 2. Glacier Collapse. Patagonia is the southernmost region of South America and is land that is shared between Argentina and Chile. It's sparsely populated and is one of the most stunning places on Earth, but at such a southerly position, it's extremely cold around the coast and is covered in ice. The glacier Perito Moreno is one of the most beautiful natural wonders in Argentina, and it attracts tourists from all over the world who want a chance to see it for themselves. Often guides will take people out on dinghies to get close to the ice, but when you see this next video, you'll realize that this isn't necessarily the safest of excursions, and at certain points of the year, large chunks of ice fall from the glacier into the canal below and trigger huge waves that cover everything in their path, including any boats that may be there at the time. Fortunately, on this occasion, everyone was well clear before the collapse. Number 1. Southern Ocean Storm. Virtually, land masses surrounding the Southern Ocean is notorious for being the most dangerous mass of water on the planet. The freezing winds that blow over the Antarctica trigger violent storms that can result in waves of up to 80 feet, which would dwarf most buildings, let alone ships. Anyone planning to sail to these waters has to be well prepared, and it's a miracle that the whalers and explorers, more often than a century ago, managed to cross these treacherous waters. Modern-day vessels are much better equipped to deal with conditions like this, but it doesn't mean it's a comfortable ride for those on board. This footage was recorded from the bridge of New Zealand warship, the HMNZS Otago. As you can see from the way it handles the 50-mile-an-hour winds and the 65-foot waves, this is not a place for the faint-hearted.